another lesson in Adobe Illustrator. Today I'm going to talk about making logos that incorporate the shape of a ring. And sometimes it's nice to work efficiently in Illustrator if you're making a bunch of logos, to find a bunch of logos that are comprised of basically the same shape. So I have four logos over here, the Olympic rings, and we have Audi, and then we have the Chanel logo and TikTok logo. So two ways to make the ring shape, and I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see here. One way is to, you have a circle and you would subtract it from another circle, and that will leave you with a ring shape. This space in here needs to be completely void of a shape, okay? So you could do it this way. The other way you could do it is if you have a stroke on an object, you can make your stroke, whatever size you need it to be. Okay, if I need to make this like really thick, I could do that. Some of the logos are thicker than others, so you might have to play around with that when you're doing these logos. And you would make the fill none. Now this alone does not really make the ring shape because the stroke, remember, isn't really part of the object. So you'd have to do something extra to this to make this into the ring shape. You'd have to go to Object, and you go down to Path, and you do Outline Stroke. Outline stroke. And now I have the ring shape. And now you're ready to make some logos. And to be efficient, if we're doing the Olympics and the Audi logo, it's pretty much set up in a very similar way. So let's say we're going to be doing the Olympic rings, right? So there's going to be 5 rings. And what I would do is I would set these up in a way that is going to be pretty close to the way you would have it set up on things. So what I'm doing is I'm actually just like placing these out in a row. And I'm going to align and distribute this row before I make the second row of, so whenever I have 2 rows of something, so there's a row of 3 and a row of 2, I'm just going to make the row of 5 first. And I'm going to align these, and then I'm going to distribute these as well through center. And now these are all evenly spaced out. And then what you would do from this point then is take these 2, and I can hit down arrow to move them down to where I need to go. And now I have the setup for my Olympic rings, and they're pretty evenly spaced out. You just have to be a little careful with how far down you move this, because if you move it down too far, you might lose this space that's inside here, but it's a pretty tight fit, so we're just going to leave that like that. Okay, now the thing with the Olympic rings is that they are interlocking. So unlike the Audi logo, so let's say I'm using a ring for the Audi logo, I'll just bring this one over here, I have an extra one. If you're doing the Audi logo, you would just have a bunch of rings, and I'm holding the Option key to do this. You would get them in the basic position that you need to be, and then you can just align and distribute, which is very important to have these aligned and distributed properly. And this could actually be pathfindered into one shape. As is, it's done. That is a finished logo. The Olympic rings, on the other hand, have this interlocking thing going on. So instead of combining them into one shape, I'm going to actually divide these. So if you go to your Pathfinder, divide, you would then have to ungroup it, and then you have a bunch of different things you need to do to make these look like they're interlocking. And it's going to come down to the tedious effort of coloring this stuff in. So if this first ring is blue, which I think it is, I'm going to make it a solid blue. And if this one down here is yellow, I have to pick these little pieces that we divided to get this to be yellow. And I'm not sure exactly how these interlock, but you get the idea that you could go in and change these colors this way, and you begin to get the interlocking feel of this. And there is actually one black ring, so that I'm going to leave that ring there black, and then this next one is going to be green. So yes, it's a little tedious in selecting, so I don't really need to do the whole thing here. So you get the idea of how to go about making the Olympic rings this way. Okay, so it's very similar to Audi logo. So if you're doing the Audi logo, you might as well just take a minute or two, and then you can just finish off your do the Olympic logo as well. So this in here somehow will end up, when I divided that, I end up with an extra piece in there. So there you go. And then this could be grouped and saved as a completed object. Okay, so there's two logos done basically because I'm using the same shape. Okay, this Chanel logo has a very similar thing going on. So I'm going to bring this ring down here. It's a little thicker than the other rings, so I made an extra thick one previously. But it's the same idea, and actually I'm going to use the same shape for the TikTok logo down below, because that also has a ring shape in it. And this shape, you also would have a interlocking aspect to it. So you got to figure out where that's going to be as far as where it's going to be interlocked. You could also, instead of interlocking it first, you could divide up the shape into the, take the piece out that you need to take out beforehand. So if I select this now and I hit minus, then I have that. That might not be perfectly aligned there, but you get the idea. And then I could reflect this or flip this around, and then you end up with the Coco Chanel sign symbol. Okay, it is a little bit off there. I did mess up at this point right in here. So let's try to fix that real quick. You want to make sure that these angles are matched up perfectly. Okay, I feel a lot better about that. And we're going to select those, subtract that out, copy, paste, or if you want to use the reflect tool, you can just double click on reflect and then hit copy, and it'll make a copy of it, and then just move it over to where you need to go. And there you have the Chanel logo completed. TikTok is very much the same way. You're going to take a piece of the TikTok logo, and we're going to cut out a portion of it. So let me just move this over a notch here. I'm using Snap the Grid, so I tried to make this spot on perfect. We'll see how that goes. So if I have a shape like this, I could use a line, even if it's invisible, to divide this up. And then we can ungroup it. And then this little piece here will become the piece that sticks off the top of the logo. So this is going to go somewhere over yonder, maybe not that far. And this also, now that I'm looking at it, might need to be a little thicker than what I made it. But you get the idea for the shape construction, that it pretty much falls in line with the other things that are going on here. And then you'd want to copy this and move it around a little bit, divide it. So if you were done with this, and it would probably need to be a little bit thicker than what I have for this. In fact, it would need to be quite a lot thicker than what I have it here right now. But I would copy and paste this and shift these around a little bit, and then you'd have to divide it and recolor it just like we did in the other logo. So once you have probably 3 copies of this, I'm just kind of looking, or maybe it's just 2 copies. It might just be 2 copies on top of each other that you would then divide and then ungroup it. Okay, so you ungroup this, you can see now I can make these all different colors, and then you'll end up with the TikTok logo. So there you go. You have 4 logos actually, in a short amount of time. And I'll let you guys get working on that and have fun with these.